In our top story, the IAEA chief has denied the agency watering down its standards following Israeli allegations of capitulating into Iranian pressure.
On the standards, of course, we never, ever, water down our standards. We stand by our standards, we apply our standards, and if anything, in this process, which is a complex process, which you have been following, we have been strict, technically impartial, as I like to say, very firm, fair but firm. So we are not in the business of watering down or politically adapting anything. These are opinions. We do not take issue with them. We understand that there may be opinions. And without further delay, well, this is of course.
Grossi added the IAEA's work is neutral, impartial, and technical. He also described Iran's explanation on the Marivan site as plausible. That's where traces of depleted uranium were allegedly found. In a report to member states last week, Grossi said Iran provided a possible explanation and the agency had no additional questions on the issue. The report said inspectors no longer had questions on uranium particles found to be enriched beyond 83% purity at the Fordow nuclear site either. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, though, had called Iran's explanation technically impossible. He complained the agency's, quote, capitulation to Iranian pressure is a black stain on its record. And now joining us out of Washington for more on the story is Yousof Azizi, Iranian affairs expert. Hello, Mr. Azizi. Pleasure to have you on. Now, sir, when we hear these objections to the IAEA's closing of those two probes and what it said today with respect to it's happy with the way Iran is cooperating with the agency, we're not hearing anything out of former signatory to the JCPOA, the U.S. We're not hearing anything out of France, the U.K., China, Germany, or Russia, the Israeli regime. Your initial thoughts, please.
Yeah, that's a big question here because, as you know, the Israeli government is not part of the NPT, and there is no monitoring on that, on this country's nuclear activity by the agency, by the United Nations. So my understanding from the positive news that coming from the IAEA and Iran is that we are approaching the seasonal meeting by the IAEA Board of Governors. And all of the stakeholders here, the agency, Iran, and the world powers wanted to give some spaces to continue diplomacy and negotiation over revival of the JCPOA or Iran nuclear deal of 2015. So as you know, the IAEA is a technical organization, but with a political body. And the political decision within the agency and outside the agency, especially by the five permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, truly affected the decision by the agency and by the Director General of the agency. So all together is that when the world powers recently received news that the United States, alongside the European countries, wanted to negotiate it further with Iran and revive the JCPOA. When we see all of these together, we can see Iran, IAEA, and the world powers wanted to play to each other to revive the JCPOA and give a space to the diplomacy. And we know the Israeli government, during the year, they are objected to this issue.
And I'm glad you alluded to all those, the upcoming border governors meeting at the IAEA, the fact that there's a possible revival now, and it's even possibly more imminent considering the fact that we're getting positive feedback from the IAEA. Where do you feel the future stands when it comes to Iran and its nuclear program in the West?
So for Iran, it is very important that the revival of the JCPOA is coming with the closing of all the allegations against the Iran. So we know that there were three open files against Iran's nuclear program after the United States coming out of the JCPOA. But nowadays, one or two of them have closed. And still there are one or two documents that open in front of the in front of the agency. So it is very important for Iran if all countries wanted the revival JCPOA would continue in the years to come, and nobody can justify these open fights against Iran to initiate the snapback mechanism. So Iran wanted to close all of these to make sure that this revival of the JCPOA will continue for the years to come. So my understanding is that these two issues, the revival of the JCPOA and closing all of the allegations against Iran's nuclear program, come together and should come together until the further negotiation close.